of the people who mind that I see are very, very different. I'll say more about people that I'm very grateful to later on. But for the time being, I would like to immediately leave the floor to Pedro Giovanni, who will bring greetings and the welcome message on behalf of my Minister Rector of the University of Padova.
Thank you, Sarah. Can you hear me and can you see me from there? Yes, okay, thank you. Thank you. Let me just say sorry for not being there with you this afternoon, but I strongly wanted to be connected in order to give you my warmest welcome to this meeting, to this ceremony. It's an honor for me. We are very proud to be the occasion to organize this this meeting. I have to say just a couple of words because you will see very soon a video by Sophia that is great. It's very interesting and it's amazing. It's incredible to see a specific data that you can find in the video. Since 1992 to the year 2021. We had more than 1,900 journalists killed in the world, in different countries. That's an unacceptable reality for us. Next week, we at the University of Padova, we will begin the celebration of our 800th year of life. Sorry?
I can interpret what your message is, which is one warm welcome for the families of Ján and Martina, that we're so very grateful for them being here. And I know that you wanted to say so many more important things, and I apologize for this, but unfortunately, technology is not on our side. And I want to spare you the
Now I can't hear you.
she's here physically present and then maybe was not trying to connect. So I would like to first of all welcome and thank once again Ericsson, Ambassador of the Republic of Slovakia to Italy. Thank you for being here. The floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Grazie a buonasera. Sono very content to work with the technologies. Dear Madam, sirs, dear officers, I have to admit that I opened the invitation for the today. Tears welled out of my eyes. Memories of the tragedy of February 2018 flooded my mind. The cold-blooded murder of Ján Kuciak and Martina Kušnírová shook individuals, society, and its centuries. It provoked an unprecedented wave of resistance, solidarity, and courage, regardless of one's country, origin, or religion, not only among people in Slovakia, but in many other countries. It was not so long ago that during the years of communist dictatorship, us, the people of Central Europe, had experienced an all how the absolute suppression of fundamental human rights and freedom was. After political changes of 1989, as an indescribable euphoria, they brought about our society had to face the reality. We learned to understand that the pillars on which democratic society is built on, and the recognition of its values such as respect for human rights, the rule of law, freedom, and independence of the media should not be taken for granted. The violent murder of Ján Kuciak consequently brought into existence the HQP for the protection of journalists and the horrifying case with the Untitled Foundation. It made us understand that the values of a democratic society need to be cultivated and their protection constantly remembered. Already at a very young age, Ján and Martina are the service and their lives and work. Students, bear in mind of the turning point of our country and the spirit in which they decided to raise a new generation of young people. Parents for whom truth, justice, and hard-won democracy have remained a priority. For all of this, you deserve our most sincere acknowledgement. Thank you. Veľmi pekne ďakujeme. Ján and Martina sacrificed their lives in defense of the fundamental democratic values. We owe them a lot, and we will only be able to repay this debt by defending democracy and truth with the same commitment and determination as they did. Let us honor their memory.
Madam Ambassador, thank you for your heartfelt words. And this is just a sign of our appreciation and just to show you how grateful we are for the fact that you're here. So this is on behalf of the students of the master degree. We will now move forward with the screening of a video which was produced by a very student in our master degree, and well, actually a recently graduated student, so technically an alumni. I will say something about the thesis in a second, but before we move to that, let me remind myself that today we are here to celebrate Ján and Martina's lives and work. They belong to a larger community of people who believe, among other values, in truth, human rights, and the rule of law. Every year, around 100 students from across the world join the master degree in human rights and multi-level governance here in Padua. And some of them are right here in this room, and for that, I'm very grateful. And when they join our master degree, they automatically become part of our community. Despite having previous experiences as human rights activists, as lawyers, as journalists in their country of origin, or not. They all belong to the University of Padua human rights community. And this event is, in one sense, to welcome them, and in the other, to show our support and our appreciation for what Ján and Martina have done in their lives. My name is Sara Penicino. I am the director of the master degree in human rights and multi-level governance. I am honored to host today's celebration, which hopefully represents the first edition of the Human Rights and Multi-Level Governance Prize awarded by the students themselves, the very students of the master degree. The event has been organized by the Antonio Papisca Human Rights Center of the University of Padua, which is today represented by Marco Mascia, that, if I'm allowed to say, is here not only as a very important member of the Human Rights Center, but also as the person that created, thought, and developed this master program for many, many years and was the director of the program for many, many years before me. And I want to congratulate him and thank him for the amazing job that he has done up until now. And I hope that I can even remotely do what you've been doing all these years. Also, the event has been organized in collaboration with the student engagement team. The student engagement team is today represented by many students that are here in the room. We're very proud to say that our students engage very much in multiple activities. They're not passive, they're very enthusiastic. And I was not surprised that they put a lot of effort in organizing this very event. Having said that, this event would have not been possible without the support of the University of Padua itself. You see this beautiful room where we're being hosted for the event, and the university was being represented by Telmo Pievani, which unfortunately technology deprived us of in terms of greetings. And also we were supported by the Department of Political Science, Law, and International Studies. And today the department is represented by the head of the department herself, Professor Elena Pariotti, and we thank her very much for being here. We appreciate it very, very much. Ján and Martina's story is of course very well known across Europe for sure, but also beyond. However, writing a whole master thesis on it, including the most recent court judgments, is a completely different type of undertaking, especially if you're Italian and you don't speak a word of Slovak. But this apparently did not scare Sofia Lissandron a bit. And thanks to the help of Alexandra Malangone, who she met as an adjunct professor in our master degree, she was teaching a module on trafficking of human beings in the context of the course on human rights practice. She decided to take a deep dive into Martina and Ján's story and legacy. Now, let me stress the fact that the role played by Alexandra Malangone with regard to today's event is way larger than this, and I want to thank her from the bottom of my heart for her availability and generosity. But back to Sofia. After graduation and in coordination with the student engagement team, Sofia prepared a video based on her thesis and presented it to her former fellow students to support the idea of awarding the 2021 Human Rights and Multi-Level Governance Students Prize to Ján and Martina. The screening of the video prompted student-led debates on corruption and freedom of the press. And today, it's meant to represent a virtual hug to Ján and Martina's family to welcome you into the University of Padova human rights community. I am being told that we might be able to go back to Telmo Pievani for the welcome message. We're gonna try, and let's see if Telmo can hear us.
Sure, I can hear you very well. And you?
Yes, yes.
Okay, let's try a second time.
Perfect.
Very briefly, I was saying that you are going to see a wonderful video with amazing data about journalists killed in different countries. I was saying that our university is going to celebrate next week the beginning of a great celebration, 800 years of history dedicated to a keyword that is freedom. Freedom of movement, freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of journalism. So this will be our guideline for this 18 months of celebration. We think about freedom not in a formal way, not just as a formality, but in a substantial way. as you can find in our constitution, our Italian constitution. We decided to give 50 grants for example, young student, female student from Afghanistan, and we are trying to do our best for this fight for freedom. Our journal, that is Ilbo Live, is going to prepare a lot of articles about human rights and freedom, because this will be the main topic of our celebration. Let me say that anyway, in the world, seeing what is happening in the world today, we can be framed by a feeling of impotence, because we will see violence against women in Afghanistan, in many countries. We see a lot of bad things about human rights, but we have to do our best as universities, as network of universities in the world, doing what politics is not doing. So giving priority to human rights when we discuss political things. We as university, we can do that. And starting with next week, we will have as our host the deans and the rectors of great universities in the world. We will do our best for this fight for human rights and freedom. So this is our concrete way, from our small part, but it's concrete way to honor the memory and the story of Ján and Martina. So thank you for being here, and welcome from my side as representative of the rector of a university.
Thank you very much to Telmo Piovani for coming back and offering the welcome message. We're very, very grateful. Now, I'm going back to my last statement. Sophia's video that we're going to screen right now is meant to be a virtual hug. So we hope that this is the experience that can be derived from the vision of this video. I'm going to let the screen speak now.
When we talk about human rights, we often automatically think of somewhat abstract treaties, which have turned human rights into international law, and imagine somewhat distant international and regional organizations, such as the United Nations or the Council of Europe. However, if you linger for a moment in circumstances of everyday life, in which human rights are supposed to guarantee people the means necessary to satisfy their basic needs, take full advantages of all opportunities by guaranteeing life, liberty, equality, and security, you soon discover that it is actually human rights defenders who are first and foremost those who aim to protect people against abuse by those who are more powerful. Investigative journalists have always played a predominant role in the recognition, protection, and promotion of human rights. The role of the investigative journalist is that of a watchman that supervises and denounces and reveals evil wherever it hides. It can be seen as a skill, a talent, or even a passion to tell the truth, to inform, to reach others, to communicate news using any means necessary. This has suggested that journalists, at least as much as governments, have a vested interest in the defense and promotion of high standards of human rights. However, journalism has never been a safe profession. All around the world, journalists are harassed, intimidated, attacked, beaten, kidnapped, and even murdered. When critical reporting is silenced and the freedom of expression is suppressed, the vital role of journalism in democracy to maintain and inform citizenry can no longer be fulfilled. Between 1992 and 2021, 1,963 journalists were killed worldwide, most often in regional conflicts in countries like Iraq, Syria, the Philippines, and Somalia. Although the murder of a journalist is extraordinary in Europe, two such tragic incidents occurred in recent years. In 2017, Daphne Caruana Galizia, a prominent anti-corruption blogger, was killed in Malta. Just a couple of months later, in 2018, the investigative journalist Ján Kuciak and his fiancée Martina Kušnírová were murdered in their home in Slovakia. My name is Sofia. I am a recently graduated human rights student at the University of Padova, and my thesis was based on the case of Ján Kuciak. Kuciak's goal was to make society aware of a well-established problem, corruption, in Slovakia, and for this he was killed. Despite everything, Ján succeeded in doing it, and now it is our responsibility to talk and not forget Ján Kuciak and Martina Kušnírová. Their story is a story of great injustice that deserves to be known by all, so that freedom of expression can truly always be guaranteed. Ján Kuciak was a 27-year-old investigative journalist who lived with his fiancée Martina Kušnírová in Velká Mača, within the Galanta district in Slovakia. Both the same age, they met in 2013 when they were students at the university in Nitra, and they have been a couple ever since. On the 5th of May 2018, they planned to get married. They love their work. Ján as a rising star of Slovak investigative journalism, and Martina as an archaeologist. Ján Kuciak was not a daredevil, not someone who corresponds to the as portrayed in movies or TV series. He was not the type to meet shady characters asking for information at the black tables of smoky bars, nor did he take delivery of big packages of documents in some underground car park in Bratislava. He had what an investigative journalist in the internet era needs. He borrows publicly accessible data and records. He scans court decisions, scores land registers, digs up extracts from the commercial registers, looks at the mortgage deeds, and tracks down offshore letterbox companies. From all of these, Kuciak has the ability to spin threads, draw lines, and recognize networks where others see only chaos. He had been working for 2 years at the Actuality.sk, which is the most popular news site in Slovakia, dealing mainly with daily news, especially in the last 2 years. Precisely in 25 articles, Kuciak wrote about a businessman, known more than anything else as a man with a mafioso past and with close connections with the Smer party, Marian Kočner. Kočner had become known for his unsuccessful attempts to gain possession of private TV station Markisa with the help of corrupt judges. In his articles, Kuciak had carefully reviewed the close investigations conducted by the Slovak police on cases involving Kočner. In particular, one case concerned the fact that Kočner used his hotels in the Dono Valley ski resort to commit VAT fraud. The journalist noted that there were several discrepancies in the prosecutor's investigation and listed the flaws in the investigations point by point, putting pressure on the judiciary to take new action against Kočner, but without success. In addition, Kuciak, in the course of his investigations, understood that Kochner kept secret networks of connections thanks to bribes and blackmails with the police, some judges, and people with high-level functions, so that they would never find any reason to prosecute him. As a matter of fact, one of the businessman's most powerful friends was Norbert Bodor, son of the head of a well-connected private security company. Reporters obtained thousands of messages Kochner and Bodor exchanged in 2017 and 2018. The two men text each other at least several times a week, discussing sensitive matters such as ongoing police investigations. Moreover, among the tasks Kochner assigned to Bodor was obtaining personal information about his enemies, including journalists, from police databases. Data obtained from one of Kochner's USB drives confirms that he eventually received the information he asked for. The data also shows that Kuciak was among the journalists Kochner was investigating. The well-connected Bodor would have been in a good position to get Kochner what he needed. He is related to Tibor Gaspar, then the head of the Slovak police force, by marriage, and the two families are known to be close. What's more, a police official who had been logged accessing the data about Kuciak told investigators that he had done so at Gaspar's request. Moreover, Monika Jankowska, a judge and deputy justice minister, was high-placed and similarly intertwined with Kochner. Over the course of 8 months, she exchanged over 6,200 messages with him, communicating about his payments to her and other judges for court rulings and discussing ongoing cases. Since Jankowska was highly placed in the justice ministry, she was able to use her influence to press the judge in charge of the case, Zuzana Maruniakova, to issue a decision favorable to Kochner. Maruniakova did so. Jankowska resigned from the Ministry of Justice, and she was recently released from pre-trial detention, but she is still charged with numerous corruption charges. And finally, Dusan Kovacic had been known for years in certain circles as the special cleaner, pun-based on his role as special prosecutor, and for having interrupted a great amount of criminal proceedings brought by the special prosecutor's office. Among the issues covered up are the gorilla scandal, in which he would have destroyed the original interceptions that demonstrated a wide spectrum of corruption between politics and finance, the financing of the Smer party, and proceedings concerning Marian Kochner. In June 2017, there was the first real confrontation between the journalist and Kochner, during which Kuciak asked Kochner several questions regarding his unclear activities in the press conference. In response, Kochner lost patience, saying that the reporting of Kuciak was not true and designating him as a liar. After this, on September 5, 2017, Kuciak received a call in which Kochner threatened him due to information he had disclosed in his articles. After this intense conversation, Kuciak had decided to lodge a complaint against him to the police, but the police did not conduct an investigation. At this point, Kochner needed someone to tail Kuciak in order to get as much information as possible to indict him. For this work, a former officer at the Slovak intelligence service was chosen, who commissioned documentation of Kuciak's days with numerous photos spying on him in every movement. In addition to Kuchner, there is another important figure who is accused of being involved in the murder of Kuciak, Alena Shushova. Shushova helped Kuchner get the people who were supposed to kill Kuciak. For this work, Shushova, according to the prosecution, contacted Zoltan Andrusko as an intermediary, showed him the photos of the journalists who were to be killed, and told him that he had to look for the two murders for a total of 50,000 euros. Meanwhile, Kuchner and Shushova, according to the prosecution, contacted each other with coded messages via an application called Trima, which allows them to remain anonymous. Their messages suggest that the two were planning a murder, that of Ján Kuciak. In the days leading up to the killing of Ján and Martina, the two assassins, a former police and a former military, controlled Kuciak's home and movements in the morning, during the day, and at night, using different cars. 3 shots were fired at night on 21st February 2018 at 588 Prozova Street, and the bodies of Ján Kuciak and his fiancée Martina Kušnírová were found by police only 4 days later. The double murder led to the largest demonstration in Slovakia since the 1989 Velvet Revolution. Over 60,000 people participated. In the case of Ján Kuciak, many human rights have been violated. The right of opinion and expression, the right to freedom and the right to personal security, the right to privacy, and also the right to life. In the first instance ruling of 3 September 2020, more than 2 years after the murder of Ján Kuciak and Martina Kušnírová, the Specialized Criminal Court acquitted Marian Kuchner for commissioning the murder of Ján Kuciak and Martina Kušnírová on the basis of the lack of evidence. The prosecutor of the Special Prosecution Office has appealed to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court upheld the appeal, deciding that the trial against Kuchner and Shushova will have to be repeated. According to the Supreme Court, in fact, the Pesino Court had not considered adequately all the available evidence. In the meantime, Kuchner has been convicted in the case Zmenki and is serving a 19-year sentence for serious fraud.
Well, kudos to Sophia for producing this video. I know, knowing her, that there might have been something that could have been even more perfect. But please believe me, I think this was great. So kudos to you. Don't worry about anything. I would like now to welcome Pavla Holkova to the stage together with Giuseppe Giulietti. And Pavla, well, of course, let's give it a hand. I think Pavla is going to offer her remarks first. And the reason why she is going first is because not only she's an amazing investigative journalist who has been awarded very, very important prize. I'm not going to go through your resume because it would be way too long. But she also was a colleague of Ján, and they worked together on numerous cross-border projects, such as the Panama Papers and other, where she exposed the ties between the Slovak government and the Italian mafia. For this reason, she's having the floor first, and also for this reason, I thank her especially for being here. So thank you, Pavla. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you for the invitation. And let me start on a bit personal note. We are here today to honor the legacy of Ján and Martina. And when I was invited to have a speech here or to have remarks here, I thought really long and hard how to bring a ray of light and kind of ray of hope into this otherwise dim and depressing story. And because I'm an investigative journalist, I was also asked to speak about investigative journalism. And it's a bit problematic with me because I really don't like to speak about me as being investigative journalist. So I decided that I'm going to speak today, or my remarks are going to be on the relationship of investigative journalists with you, people who care, who came, who follow the case, and who just make the investigative journalism possible. You know, Ján and Martina, they were murdered for a simple reason. Ján was an investigative journalist who was providing bulletproof stories that were really holding together. And Martina, she was his first editor and his first reader. So she was the one who was providing him feedback on the stories. The data, as we already saw in the movie, the data Ján collected, analyzed, and exposed were really based on the facts. And it provided the society, you know, stories that they can use to make evidence-based decisions in their lives. When you take the story that Ján wrote, you can present it as evidence at the court. And I'm afraid it was really happening that the prosecutors really relied on Ján on many of the cases and just, you know, took his articles, did the same thing he did, and then presented later at the court. You know, even the fact checkers, the job we as investigative journalists hate the most because they tend to spoil a good story with facts. They laughed Ján because he was presenting the facts. So it was easy to do the fact checking with him. Those are the reasons why powerful people in Slovakia decided they need to silence Ján and Martina. This decision to silence them or to kill them came from really powerful men who was very well embedded in a system that we call these days the system of our men. It means the system that if you are our men, we will protect you and your atrocities against any kind of prosecution. Fortunately, this guy, this powerful guy, was wrong. And with him, the whole system of our men collapsed. It was the system when actually it was easy to buy court ruling, it was easy to buy prosecution of your enemy. It was even easy to buy a murder. The whole story of Ján and Martina, you just see in the film by Sofia. But what I want to highlight here today is that for me, this story of Ján and Martina, or the follow-up of the story of Ján and Martina, it has two main heroes. The first heroes, of course, are Jožo, Janka, and Zlata. sitting here, because they took the case with a great dignity and because they were able to brought up two kids who are now symbolizing this kind of high morale and ethics. You know, after the murder, it took me some time. Sorry, I can't. It took me some time to approach them because I was afraid. I was afraid they are going to blame me that I introduced Jano to investigative journalism, and I'm the reason why they got killed. I was wrong. And at one event, Zlata approached me and she said, you know, we lost our kids, but now we have you. And it was really, really obliging for me. So even though when after the murder, I just want to, you know, quit this job and I didn't want to face the evil anymore, I collected the strength as well as any other investigative journalist, and we decided we need to follow Jano's stories and we need to finish it and expose the system of our men and just, you know, try to do something. So we started to collect the evidence and we started to expose the system and how it happened that Slovakia became a state where, you know, the strongest organized criminal group, the police itself. And impunity was commodity for sale. But apart from Zlata, Janka, and Jožo, there is a second hero of the story, and it's actually Slovak civil society. Those were the people who went to the streets to protest the murder and to ask for a proper investigation. Without them, we won't be able to continue on the stories. Those were people like you. Those were people who cared, who didn't mind freezing on the streets and demand justice. They also started during the protest to understand that those are the ones who hold the power and who make the change possible. Because without this kind of a people, the change won't be possible, and the revolution that's ongoing in Slovakia won't be possible. So people who went to the streets and people like you who are attending this, you know, honor, legacy, those are the people we as investigative journalists write for. You know, we write stories not to make you angry or sad, but we try to present you with well-researched facts so you can really make evidence-based decisions in your life that will in future influence your life. You know, those people at streets gave us the power to continue the fight and to continue reporting on the most devastating story of our lives as a journalist, the story of the murder of our colleague and friend. But the relationship is not only beneficial for us as a journalist, it's also beneficial for civil society, because investigative journalism is considered as one of the strongest tools to fight corruption. We are considered as investigative journalists to be some kind of a watchdog of democracy, but I need to add that we are also the watchdogs of state budgets and the rule of law. But just let me brag a bit, let me present you with the numbers. I work for network of investigative journalists, and during the time, the last 10 years, when we started to exist, we returned to the state budget over the world over $7.5 billion US. We, based on our reporting, 400 police investigations were started, and 556 people were indicted and sentenced. We do this job for people like you. We do this job to hold those at power accountable, even if it can cost us our lives. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Pavla. Your words are heartwarming, inspiring, and they're beautiful. So I don't think there's another way to describe them. Thank you very, very much. I am now going to pass the floor to Giuseppe Giulietti, who is the president of the National Federation of the Italian Press. Giuseppe Giulietti is going to speak in Italian, and a translation in English will follow.
Sarò bravo, no, ma breve sì. Sono già confuso in italiano. Evito di andare ad impronta perché Marco non mi ha detto Masciali. Io mi sono preparato un breve intervento. Guardate, io potrei dire grazie e andare a casa. Quindi seguitemi perché dirò solo dei grazie.
Dico questo.
Prego, disse grazie, ho finito.
So he's not going to be good, but he's going to be brief, and he's going to speak in Italian because he's more comfortable, but also because he was not fully aware of the fact that it should have been in English. So this is on us, I guess, and on me mainly, evidently. But he's saying I could leave immediately after saying thank you because this is all I want.
Posso dire un grazie assieme a voi se posso, Magari. Ringraziamo i familiari che sono qui con noi in prima fila. Io vi ringrazio di essere qui perché per me è facile parlare. Incontro ogni giorno familiari a cui hanno ammazzato i figli di giornalisti e non solo. È difficilissimo per chi ha subito la ferita e il dolore trasformarlo in azione a favore degli altri. Loro meritano un applauso davvero.
So this we're clapping to honor and to congratulate and to thank the families of Ján and Martina for being here with us, because Giuseppe was saying that he meets basically on a daily basis people that have siblings that were murdered because of the job they were doing, or because he's a chronist, so he's writing the stories of these people, and he very rarely witnesses people with the strength to turn pain into a proactive attitude, in a proactive behavior. So he's congratulating you from the deep of his heart.
C'è un ragazzo italiano, un ricercatore, che ha l'età di molti di voi, si chiamava Giulio Regeni, non ha ottenuto né verità né giustizia, è stato ammazzato in Egitto, paese col quale continuiamo a commerciare in armi. I genitori hanno scritto un bellissimo libro, si chiama Giulio fa cose, per distinguere tra la commemorazione, piangere e magari attaccare una targa, e l'azione, usare il dolore per spingere altre donne e altri uomini a chiedere la legalità. È la cosa che tutti loro, compreso l'ambasciatrice e l'università, voi oggi state facendo cose. Ján e Martina fanno cose, vivono attraverso i loro segni. Questo è il modo di far continuare l'esistenza di chi non c'è più. Sì, puoi andare.
Giuseppe was reminding Regeni, who is an Italian student. He was a researcher, actually, a student of a PhD program. So he was a researcher that was killed in Egypt. And he is recalling Regeni because Regeni's parents wrote a book where they said something that Giuseppe thinks resonates very much with Ján and Martina's family's attitude, which is that of being active and of having Ján and Martina living through signs being actively present and not disappearing in the pain. So he, again, is recalling this.
Io voglio ringraziare attraverso Sofia tutte le studentesse, gli studenti e l'università per questa iniziativa e dire loro di diffidare da quelli della mia età, ce ne sono tanti, giornalisti, politici, non solo, che invitano al cinismo, che dicono tutti i giorni che questo tipo di iniziative non servono. State a casa. È un invito a non modificare nulla. È offensivo per chi non c'è. Voi, questa università, per l'ennesima volta nella sua storia, realizza qualcosa che ha un valore internazionale. Termino il concetto e ve lo dico non a nome mio, che non sono nessuno, ma ve lo dico a nome di famiglie che forse voi conoscerete. Se dopo 28 anni parliamo ancora di Alpi Rovatin è perché molti non hanno spento le luci. Se ieri abbiamo ricordato Giancarlo Siani ammazzato dalla camorra è perché molti non hanno spento le luci. Se io andrò a Ferrara per Federico Aldrovandi, per questo sparirò, ammazzato per eccesso di uso della forza, usiamo queste parole sciocche, a Ferrara è perché la madre ha alzato la testa. E se ogni giorno chiediamo la liberazione con le università di Patrick Zaki in carcere per un reato di opinione, per un articolo scritto, è perché donne e uomini come voi nelle università e nelle scuole, e questa è la grande tradizione del professor Papisca, se non ricordo male, Marco, me l'hai insegnato tu, continuano a soffrire, si chiama compassione. Non è un termine solo religioso, patire con gli altri. Si prendono cura dei vicini, si prendono cura degli altri. Io per questo ero venuto, soprattutto per ringraziarli, perché non è vero che non arriva. Le famiglie, la cosa che soffrono di più non è solo l'assassinio, non è solo un'eventuale negazione di giustizia, ma è l'archiviazione nel cuore della memoria. Voi oggi avete impedito l'archiviazione. Io di questo vi ringrazio.
So he's inviting you not to listen to people of previous generations, let's say older people, that may invite you to approach this type of events in a cynical way, maybe saying, well, I'm not going to participate, it doesn't matter, they don't impact anything. What he is reminding us by recalling the names of Miran Hrovatin, of Patrick Zaki as well was remember, and of Siani, all, well, the first and the third journalists that were killed because of their job, the job they were doing here in Italy, and the second because of let's say, of the way he expressed his own opinions while in Italy, and once back in Egypt has been jailed and is still unfortunately waiting for a decision on his future. But the point is that he'd like to remind you that these events are important, because there's no other meaning to such sacrifice if not that of living and in the memory of what has happened, and having you as a community of peers and a community of people sharing these same values, remembering the sacrifice and the stories of these individuals.
Questo processo, tra l'altro, ci riguarda, perché sia nel processo di Martina e di Ján, sia nel processo di Daphne, come dicono i maltesi, Caruana Galizia, noi troviamo le tracce dell''ndrangheta e della mafia. Troviamo tracce che ci riguardano. Ed è il nostro dovere, anche dei giornalisti italiani, loro già lo fanno, tenere accesi i riflettori sulle zone dell'oscurità. Fratello di Siani, Paolo Siani, ieri mi diceva: bisogna arrivare il giorno prima, non il giorno dopo. Talvolta alcuni dei morti che piangiamo vengono ammazzati perché la politica, le istituzioni e purtroppo altri giornalisti non accendono i riflettori il giorno prima. Quando un collega è minacciato, tu devi accendere i riflettori il giorno prima, non accenderli il giorno dopo. Il giorno dopo è quello della commemorazione, ma il giorno della denuncia viene prima, tu lo sai. Quando cala il buio non sono parole mie, purtroppo sono parole scritte da altre persone ammazzate, Pippo Fava, Impastato, Don Diana, Don Puglisi. Tutti segnalavano, attenzione, che quando attorno c'è il buio, è il momento in cui ti ammazzano, è il momento in cui prima ti isolano, poi ti diffamano, poi ti colpiscono. E l'avete visto in quello splendido documentario che mi piacerebbe vedere magari su qualche rete Rai. Viene fuori anche lì la stessa storia: ti colpisco, ti diffamo, ti isolo e poi arrivo all'atto finale. Ecco perché bisogna arrivare il giorno prima. Poi ho un concetto finale, se vuoi lo dico subito. Sì, poi finisco.
As Italians and as the president of the Italian National Federation of the Italian Press, Giuseppe Giulietti is reminding us all of how important it is to not turn the lights off on dark areas, which in our country especially relate to phenomena related to mafia, to organized crime more in general. And he has been remembering the brother of this journalist, Siani, who was killed near Naples some decades ago for his activity, his investigative activity. And the brother of Siani was recently telling Giuseppe Giulietti that it is necessary to be present the day before, not the day after. For journalists, for politicians, for institutions, it is crucial to show up the day before anything happens, not the day after. And why is this? He's saying that it was also well evident from the video that was created by Sofia Lissandron, of the film by Sofia Lissandron, that it is when they manage to isolate you, to turn off the light on you, on what you're doing, when you are forgotten, when you are left alone, that they strike and they take you down. So he's inviting, and being the president of the National Federation, this is very important. He's inviting not to turn off the lights.
L'ultimo concetto, visto che siamo in quest'aula e avete realizzato questo lavoro, una delle cose che ho imparato da questo grande corso, uno dei pochi che si occupa dei diritti umani in modo così approfondito, è che bisogna contrapporre, voi lo avete fatto oggi, vedete, avete incarnato la distanza tra la globalizzazione dell'indifferenza, che produce gli scarti umani, le espressioni non sono mie, sono di Papa Bergoglio, e invece la globalizzazione dei diritti, di chi si prende cura anche di chi non conosce, di chi ha un altro colore della pelle, di chi prega in un altro modo, ma appartiene alla stessa famiglia umana. Avete manifestato quali sono i due sentimenti. E l'altro giorno, se non ricordo male, in un discorso che consiglio a tutti di leggere, credenti e non credenti, il Papa Francesco a Bratislava ha pronunciato un discorso, a mio giudizio, essenziale sul tema le porte aperte, la necessità di aprire le porte e di manifestare attenzione e solidarietà. Sarà il grande tema della prossima marcia Perugia-Assisi, che si terrà il 10 ottobre, a cui siete tutti invitati, ma il professor Mascia ne sa più di me. Fammi chiudere su un punto. Il Parlamento europeo lo ha annunciato la commissaria Ursula von der Leyen l'altro giorno, una risoluzione in 4 punti a tutela dei giornalisti, dei cronisti minacciati. Sono tanti. In Italia sono 27 sotto scorta, il massimo in Europa. Sono tanti, uno sconcio. Io vorrei che questo codice, una volta approvato, portasse i nomi di coloro che non ci sono più, a cominciare dal nome di Martina, di Ján e di un altro straordinario ragazzo che aveva nel cuore l'Europa, la libertà, i ponti, Antonio Megalizzi, che ha dedicato la sua vita all'Europa. Vorrei che questa risoluzione europea portasse i loro nomi, i nomi di chi oggi non c'è più. E ho terminato, se posso, visto che abbiamo parlato di diritti, se posso salutarvi con un... So di poterlo fare in questa sede. In una giornata come questa il pensiero nostro, penso collettivo, va anche, oggi ci sono state manifestazioni in tutta Italia, alle croniste, ai cronisti, alle donne, a chi difende i diritti umani, a chi è restato in Afghanistan. Abbiamo portato la guerra a casa loro, cerchiamo di accoglierli in modo serio in casa nostra nei prossimi mesi. Grazie.
A quick
E grazie a te per la pazienza, diciamo.
No, beh, è un onore. So a quick summary. Of course, I'm not going to be able to go into the details, but the message is that you should be proud of what you're doing today, because the fact that you're here in this room is a very manifestation of a good version of globalization, which is the globalization of rights and not the globalization of human leftovers, right? This is scarti umani. This is the expression that was used. And how are you taking such stance here today? You're doing it by showing empathy, by showing that you care. You care for something that is not directly linked to you. And this message resonates with what Pope Francis recently said in Bratislava during his official journey, which was inspired by the idea of opening the doors to those that are different from us. And the last message that was shared was a mention of the 4 points proposal put forward by the president of the European Union Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, regarding freedom of more than freedom of journalists, right? Actually, a code of conduct on the protection of journalists in Europe. And Giuseppe Giulietti was proposing that such resolution, such code of conduct should bear the names of Ján, of Martina, and of Maria Galizia, as she was, as the journalist that was murdered in Malta, as we all know, as we all very well know. So this was the idea that was put forward. Is a very good idea, I think. He closed with a thank you and a congratulations to you all. All right, so I find myself in the awkward position of playing multiple roles. So thank you both for being with us. I am now going to leave the floor. Actually, I'm going to invite onto stage Sofia Lisandron, Mahassan Afali Bahani, and Alex Fratin. We don't have the specific names, so you can sit wherever you want. Sofia Lisandron, at this point, you know very well. She is the author of the master thesis and the author of the video. While Macy, if she allows me to use the nickname, if Macy and Alex are the two students representing the student body of the master degree in human rights and multi-level governance. I'm going to leave the floor to them.
Hello, everybody. I don't know about this. Oh. Hello, everybody. I am honored to be here today. So, my name is Mahsan. I am an MA student of the Human Rights and Multi-Level Governance program. I come from Iran, a country that is known, among many other things, as a country that suppresses any opinion or any idea that is against the ruling system. My whole life, I grew up knowing people that have been subject to torture, imprisonment, or even the death sentence. Every person that I know at least knows an acquaintance or a friend or even a loved one that has been victim to this system. This is not about one country. This is about all countries. We as people from different countries living in different states, we all, excuse me. Yes, we all have been contributing to this system of suppression because we allow our silence to be an approval to the system that is suppressing every opinion. Whether you know a journalist, a scientist, university professor, or a student, they mostly have been somehow victim to a system. Every crime committed towards an innocent civilian, every bloodshed, every tear of every mother, father, son, or daughter, we are responsible because of our silence. And it takes strong people and inspiring guides to make people aware of how they are contributing to this unfair system. I am happy today to be here because I am surrounded by people that have decided that they want to take a stand to break this silence. I'm also heartbroken because I realize that for every person to wake up from this matrix of dictatorship, people have to sacrifice themselves. I wish Ján and Martina could be with us today so we could tell them that they have been a teacher and a guide to us. I respect families that taught Ján and Martina to be persistent in seeking justice. More than ever, in this era where corruption and power are mostly inseparable, we need more people like Ján and Martina that could remind us of our huge responsibility in maintaining humanity and justice. Heroes are not born heroes. They are trained to be one. I thank parents of Martina and Ján, not because of raising a child, but because of raising a human. Thank you.
Okay, first and foremost, I would like to share the feeling of my colleagues. I am more than honored to be on this floor today at this event. And I would like to speak openly about something that has been on my mind while working towards this event. And these questions have only grown bigger and bigger while the event itself was progressing. I was asking myself, what can a student possibly say that hasn't already been said? So many great and accomplished interventions have been shared today. And what my contribution would like to be is a small reflection on what the story of Ján and Martina made me realize during these days. We are all taught, especially in school, but also at university, that history is mostly about giants, the pioneers, the leaders, the people on whose shoulders we stand and we watch as they change the very shape of the landscape around them. They are the people inspiring us from the height of their podiums, from the imposing figure of their offices in historical buildings or high skyscrapers, or from the deep and unwavering depth of their wisdom and spirituality. But what about the unseen? What about the untold? What about the journeymen, the grinders, the people who live perhaps a simple life away from the spotlight, in the darker side of the public eye? And I think the story of Ján and Martina speaks loudly for all these people that are every day on the front lines, and they represent the real shoulders on which we all stand. And they also speak very loudly for all of us who will come next. Because we may be tempted, especially as young people, young professionals, students, or future professionals and future students, to shy away perhaps from responsibility, or I would even dare say greatness. Because what is greatness anyways, right? Something given rather than taken, something reserved to a select few who received the call. But studying and watching this story of Ján and Martina made me realize that maybe I should think again. Because right now, every day, injustice deprives thousands and thousands of people of equality, dignity, and remedy. Greed and schemes, they plot against the free will of the people. And women and minorities are discriminated against, sometimes even violently. And everything is happening right now. And this made me realize that human rights, history, making a difference, playing a role in the community has never been about receiving a call or being a chosen. It has always been all about those people who are willing to listen and be observant, because the calls that we need are all around us, every day, every minute, every second. We are called to be defenders while we work, while we study, while we try to come up with the next breakthrough for our research, or for instance, while we write our thesis. And Ján and Martina, now they also ask, I guess, to think about it as a celebration of the voice, not just human rights, because everything starts with the voice. We are here today to give a voice to those who don't have it, or that cannot have it, or don't have it anymore. And the only thing that I would like to say as a concluding remark is that reading this story and being a part of it has taught me that it is possible to fight a bigger system, even if sometimes it can seem daunting. Such big are the challenges that we are asked to face. And they showed you can win against the system, and that real achievements and real power do really come to those who first and foremost are willing to lower themselves in first person, out of the comfort zone, on the front lines, to pick them up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alex. So for me, it's a real honor to be here today and have the opportunity to talk about Ján and Martina, because it's a story that deserves to be known by all, but especially by those who, like us, study or will study human rights. It's such a story of great injustice in which several human rights have been violated. To name a few: rights of opinion, expression, the right to privacy, but also the right to life. But not only that, it is also a story that belongs to us. In what sense you will think, and now I try to explain. Often when we talk about the rule of law and human rights being recognized without constraints, we often automatically think of the United Nations or the Council of Europe. It's not wrong, but it's a very narrow sense. As a matter of fact, if we linger for a moment and reflect on the story of Ján and Martina, we soon realize something. Ján was an extraordinary person who could do his job in an excellent way. But Ján and Martina were like us. They believe in human rights, they believe in justice, they believe in exposing corruption so that society could know. So Ján and Martina teach us that the defense of fundamental human rights is our shared responsibility, because we are one with these rights and freedoms, and even when pushed to the edge. So Ján and Martina reminds us to embody these values until the very end. So thank you very much.
So if I'm not mistaken, there's going to be a little passing of a sign of appreciation. So I would ask you to stand there in that corner, which is very comfortable for our viewers at home. And I would like to ask to the families to join the students, and they would like to give you a symbol of our affection and appreciation. Alexandra Malangone is going to help you with the translation of the plaques. So I'm passing Okay. So I think that maybe you decide the order and you can just step forward a little bit. So, I am going to pass the microphone so that you can read the plaque and assign it to the correct person. Who's the correct person? Do you want me to hold the plaque so that you can read it?
Yeah, thank you.
There you go. Okay. This is for Ján's family.
To Ján Kuciak for his relentless fight to protect the rule of law and advance human rights. To Martina Kušnírová for her courage, perseverance, and humanity in her quest for justice.
And lastly, to Pavla for being here today and presenting to us and taking her time to speak to us.
Okay, so I'm going to pass the floor to Alexandra, who is going to help us to welcome the message from the family.
Postavíme sa tam. Where's the standing?
No, cítim sa trochu nesvoj, myslím, že tú cenu mohol preberať Janko, nie ja.
I am feeling a little bit uncomfortable because I think this award, Ján was supposed to actually receive it rather than me, his father.
Veľmi pekne ďakujem a želám všetkým, aby sa vám váš boj o lepšiu spoločnosť vydaril. Ste mladí, držím vám všetkým palce.
I would like to thank you very much, and I wish you that your fight for a better society that you are carrying on has a successful end, and you are young, so you have a path in front of you, and I wish you all the best of luck.
Ešte raz veľmi ďakujem.
Ja takisto chcem veľmi pekne všetkým poďakovať a pripájam sa k Jožkovým slovám a chcela by som vás poprosiť, nikdy ten boj nevzdajte, lebo ja osobne ho nezdám, kým žiť budem bojovať za naše deti. Ďakujem pekne.
I would also like to thank you very much, and I would like to join the words of Josef, and I would like to tell you, never give up this fight. I personally am going to be carrying on in this fight as long as I live. Okay, so thank you. Thank you. I'll give the floor to Sarah.
So thank you very much for being with us. I would like to thank you once again, all of you, for taking the time to participate in this event. Again, Giuseppe Giulietti said it in a way that I couldn't possibly match in quality. So being here means more than just physically attending an event. Being here means opening yourself to people that are completely different from you, experiences that are very far away from you, and actually, on the contrary, welcoming them in our community, the human rights community of the University of Padua, that you are now a member of, or you already have been one for one whole year. Now, as I said at the beginning, the role of Alexandra in organizing this event goes well beyond helping Sophia in doing the research, translating the documents, finding the court proceedings. So she has contributed very much to today's event, and I would like to leave her 2 minutes at the end just to close and say a few words and to thank whomever she deems to thank. So thank you all for coming. I leave the floor to you if you want to go stand in front of the camera so they can see you.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you very much. Thank you, Sarah, for your words. But me, like Pavla, don't really like to talk too much about myself. So I really would like to thank Sarah Panicino, who is really rare a person professionally and humanly, and her great effort to make this event happen at the university with the support of the whole university has been fundamental. I have just put down a quote and I was worried that I would not remember it very well. So I put it down in my notes and I read it for you. It's from the book that many of you may know, from Margaret Atwood. And the quote says, "We were the people who didn't appear on the first pages of the papers. We lived in the empty white spaces at their edges, and this gave us more freedom. We lived in the interstices of other people's stories." And this is who Ján and Martina were, and this is who Pavla is when she spoke about the relationship between investigative journalists and the people. They are not those who live on those pages. Other stories lives on those pages and they bring those stories to the light. So this is what I think we should be able to say about us and about our work as human rights defenders when our lives are over. So thank you very much, everyone. And I return the floor to Sarah.
There's really not much to say at this point. I can only thank you once again, and I hope to see you soon in class. And for those of you that will be in class on Monday, I want to let everybody know, even those on Zoom, we have a very special lecturer who is with us today in the room, and we haven't named his name, but he's going to be the guest speaker of the first class of the course on constitutional development, is Mr. Pavel Zilnichi, and tomorrow he will offer a lecture on the critical aspects of attempting to reform rule of law exclusively through legal reforms, and maybe not assessing or not weighing enough the importance of the human element. I know that this is already tickling your interest, so I look forward to listening to your comments on Mondays should you be in class. For everybody else, thank you for being with us. Thank you to everybody on Zoom. We are very glad you participated, even if from remote. Thank you to our guests. There are no words to say how grateful we are for the fact that you're here. Thank you, Madam Ambassador. Thank you, Pavla. Thank you again, everybody. It was a pleasure.